Gotta get the important stuff out of the way first. 2 beer.
Yeah, let me pop another beer. Actually, I got it. I got a little time. I got about a quarter here.
Oh, that'll take you all night.
The way I nurse it.
Yep. Ready?
Episode 115. PHP Ugly. What, John?
Nothing.
John, no. John wants to start. Let John start for once.
Okay. I was going to, but you jumped in, so I let you go.
Go ahead.
I acquiesce you as always because you're awesome. Okay. Hello, you're listening to PHP Ugly episode 115. I'm John Congdon, and with me is Tom Rideout.
Hey.
And Eric Van Johnson.
Hello.
Oh my gosh, it feels like it's been forever since we did one of these things.
Yeah, it's been a couple weeks.
A while. Yeah.
Well, 2 weeks for you guys, and then I missed the one prior, so it's been like 3 weeks for me.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about that. That's right. Yeah. You just went MIA on us. We had no idea where you were, what happened to you. There was a pool going, or whether or not you were dead in a ditch somewhere.
Damn
and hopeful thoughts, but
I was hoping I won that one. I had so much money on me being dead that night.
Yeah, it has been a while. And then I guess last week, Thomas in the 11th hour, literally in the 11th hour, decided he was not feeling well. So
yes, sick as a dog.
It helped that you were in Chicago as well.
I was in Chi-Town. Yeah, I was willing to try to record. We decided a while back that the next time Thomas calls in sick, that John and I would go ahead and record without him, just to break Thomas's streak of not missing a podcast. Which, in hindsight, I'm pretty sure Thomas had missed one of the earlier podcasts, but I haven't gone back through and confirmed that yet. Anyways, I would have done that last week, but I ended up in Chicago. I was really concerned about the hotel Wi-Fi. It was going to be all three of us. I wasn't going to worry about it because I'd just be quiet and let you two talk. But with the idea of it just being you and I was like, nah, probably should just.
Plus, you're having fun drinking with other people.
I was drinking with actually some talented developers for a change. What? Did I say that out loud? Sorry.
I saw that you were hanging out with Freak.
Frick. Yes, we had a great time actually. Yeah, we closed the hotel bar. We got kicked out of the bar, and yeah, we had a good time. Lots of talking.
I guess we should circle back to why you were in Chicago.
Yeah, we can. You want to start with that, or you want to? We can start with that.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, we're talking about it. Go for it.
Yeah, it was just literally a last minute thing. Been saying I don't even think we've been talking about it much on the show that Laracon had been coming up, but I've been asked a few times whether or not I was going on Twitter, and I had decided to skip it this year. Just too much going on with work, with scheduling Wave PHP. I just didn't know if I would be free when Laracon came around, and as it turned out, if I wanted to, I could probably have squeezed it in, but I didn't know this when tickets were on sale for Laracon and I had to do all the planning and stuff, and I actually wasn't terribly interested in going to Laracon this year, but literally the last minute, my friends over at Larachat Live called me. My buddy up in Vancouver, Sean, called me up, said, Eric, man, I came across this ticket for Laracon. Is there any chance at all you can be in Chicago? And I'm like, I turned to my wife. I'm like, honey, you got a problem if I go to Chicago? She's like, when? I'm like, tomorrow. Like, okay, have a good trip. Which was a little alarming. I mean, she almost seemed excited about it, but so yeah, sure enough, I jumped on a plane and headed up to Chicago, and I have to say, pretty happy I did. I didn't regret the decision one bit. I don't know. So much to talk about. Let me think about where I want to start. First thing, props to Sean for getting me the ticket. Props to the person who actually gave me the ticket, whose name I don't have queued up right now. Super nice guy. He bought the ticket and just couldn't use it, and so it was nice of him to give it to me. I got to tell you guys, we've talked about it in the past about occasionally going to a conference and having somebody approach you and say, "Hey, I listened to your show. I appreciate your show." I had that happen to me more at this Laracon than anywhere else.
Really?
I had so many people come up to me. Now, I think a couple of them recognized me from Larachat Live. But there was a strong contingency of PHP Ugly people, and everybody got tickets. Everybody got stickers who mentioned PHP Ugly to me. And it was funny because I had one person come up to me and said, I didn't see you, but I heard you talking, and I recognized the voice. I'm like, that's bizarre, man.
That is bizarre.
So I have a list of people here that I wanted to remember to shout out to, that I made sure that I let them know that I appreciated meeting them. So let me just go through this list real fast. First thing, so some of this,
he thinks we're on the radio and it's like Zoo 100 or something.
Yeah,
Gotta give a shout out.
Happy birthday to Marie Longwood.
From the morning crew, Stuart in England. Happy birthday. Stuart from England was a complete crack up. This dude was hysterical. I ran into Jonathan Smith, who I've talked to before. I always mess up his name. Newman, who I think we've all spoken with on Twitter before. And has actually been in our chat. Does anybody have the chat open now that we mentioned that?
Nobody's in there.
Yep.
Don't worry.
All right, let me go ahead and get mine going. I forgot about that. Oh no.
I can't wait till you guys get recognized at Wave PHP as the guys who do PHP Ugly.
You think there's going to be a shameless self-promotion?
Ken from Twitter, Jason from Lair Streams walked up to me. I don't think Jason from Lair Streams knew who I was. He was talking about what a great podcast I had and how he never misses a show, but he kept referencing like the wrong people on the podcast. So
Let him roll with it. Let him roll with it.
I know. I just took it. And then another guy. Again, I want to circle back around to, but dude, Brian, probably the first guy who approached me, really, really just kind of highlighted who I was 10 years ago. Brian is a guy who, he's not a developer. He's not a professional developer. He has a completely different profession. He works in a completely different field. He develops on the weekend. He develops when he has free time. The dude took a vacation day, spent his own money to come to Laracon. Unfortunately, he lived in Chicago, so he thought that was kind of a benefit. But took a vacation day to come to Laracon because he enjoys development. And I'm like, man, and we get that in the user group a lot too. People who, they're not professional developers, or they don't get paid to develop, and they're just passionate about it, and they're just thirsty for knowledge. They love the culture. They love hanging around developers. Brian, it was great to meet you. He says he listens to the show, so if you listen to the show, shout out to you, Brian, in Chicago. Way to go, buddy.
Go Cubs.
I got to go to a Cubs game.
I saw.
How awesome was that? I know, man. That was like the first thing I did when I landed. I got there. I threw my bags in the hotel. I'm like, Wrigley Field, let's go. So,
is that when they lost like 30-1?
No, but they did lose to the Diamondbacks. But yeah, it wasn't my fault. It had nothing to do with it. But you know what I did end up using? I think John and I came across this the last time him and I went to a Padres game. And as you can imagine, I got on a plane. I flew 4 hours. Got off the plane. Threw my bags
your
down. Went
laptop.
to Wrigley Field. My phone was practically dead, and I'm sitting there, and it's like the first inning, and I'm down to 10%. I'm like, oh man, I need to call an Uber to get back to the hotel. I can't let this phone die. So I walked around. I remember the last time John and I went to a Padres game, we saw these little charging lockers, these cell phone charging lockers. I'm like, what are the chances that that's like a common thing now? So I find an usher. I'm like, hey, do you guys happen to have cell phone charging lockers? He's like, yeah, of course. It's down this alley or whatever. And I'm like, okay, cool. I go down there. Sure enough, it's there. Use my little credit card, locker door pops open, put my phone in there. It's in there for maybe an hour. I just put it in there, forgot about it, went back to the game. I wasn't expecting any calls or anything. But I go back down like the third or fourth inning. And like I said, it was in there, I don't know, maybe a little longer than an hour. I had a lot of hot dogs, a lot of beers by then. But I get the phone out and it's completely charged. I'm like, oh, this is so awesome. So that was
Clayton
great.
Stone in our chat room is saying Wrigley Field's a great place to go, even if you're not a baseball fan.
It was. It definitely is one of those nostalgic sort of things. Like, it has so much history. Like Clayton says, you don't even have to be a baseball fan. You just have to appreciate history, and you would appreciate Wrigley Field and the surrounding. I mean, I could have probably not even gone in Wrigley Field. Like, if I wasn't a baseball fan, I could have just been around Wrigley Field. And there's just so much going on just around Wrigley Field, including this huge plasma television that's showing the game that's inside the stadium.
Really?
Yeah, it'd be like telling a dog, you want to go for a walk? You want to go for a walk, but not taking it for a walk. I'm sure he'd be able to handle it just fine.
Yeah, it was fun. I absolutely been to Chicago a few times. John and I went out there a couple times for PHP Tech, but you stayed on the outskirts of Chicago. You weren't in downtown. And this for Laricon, I stayed downtown Chicago, and man, what a difference! I mean, not that I didn't enjoy myself at Tech, but I just had just an absolute. You know what the view was from my room? When I opened up my windows, I saw that fountain from what's it called? Married with Children. You know, the big the fountain? Yeah, that was outside my my window of my hotel room.
That's slightly depressing.
Cool. No, we found outside. That's awesome. I didn't even know that was there. So the venue for Laricon was downtown?
Not exactly. So, and again, this was one of the reasons why I wasn't exactly ecstatic to go to Laricon. It's because the venue was this museum, the Science and Technology Museum. Super, super cool place. But it's kind of like you had to take an Uber to it. Or you didn't have to. I guess you could have rented a bike, but you weren't going to walk to it. You had to take an Uber to it. There was no, like, it was a lot of real estate to even walk off the property. So it was close to downtown. It was right outside the University of Chicago. So it was closer, I guess, was to the south side of Chicago. So yeah, the museum, unbelievably cool. I mean, super, super cool. It had an actual tornado going in the one of the lobbies where we were that you could walk through. The weird thing about it is
you forced an employee into this tornado, by the way. I want to say that you took somebody and said, you have to get in there and act like a superhero so I can record it and put it on Slack.
Not an employee.
And
be clear.
Oh yes. Yeah, don't confuse that. Yeah.
Well, no, because we're talking about Marcus, right?
Yeah. He's not an employee.
We don't have any employees. I'm just I gotta protect the business. That's the way it is.
He's the CEO. It's all about the details with him.
Okay.
A friend.
Yeah.
You took a friend and you forced him into the tornado.
You forced him into the tornado. and he didn't know what to do. You just started recording without telling him, and then you just said, "Charge up like a superhero."
Yeah.
So thank you for that. That was great.
Yeah. So the weird thing about the museum was the convention. It wasn't like. What are you doing? It wasn't like it was convenient. Like you didn't walk into the doors of the museum and the convention was like right there to your right. It was deep in the museum. I mean, you had to go up a couple flights of stairs. You had to walk through a couple of the Arctic exhibit, and I mean, it took some effort to get there. And again, I'm not a smoker, so it didn't really impact me. But I don't know what smokers did, because there's like a door that was by where we were eating, but somebody said that you weren't allowed to walk out the door. Like the door was locked. It was a fire escape or something. But I don't know. I don't know what smokers did. The one time I ran into a smoker when I was running late, they were at the front of the museum, which again was a huge walk for people. So that was kind of weird. The conference, it hosted like 850 people this year, which is a huge conference for, a niche area.
Much bigger than it was last year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think last year was still in the 500s.
Yeah,
and it was when you and I went in Louisville, it was only in the 300s. So it was over double of what you went to.
Wow.
And so
was it still single track like it was last year?
Yeah, it's still single track, and I think Laravel is kind of at a critical mass here. Where the facility was big enough to support 850 people. And John, you went last year in New York. This was 100 times more comfortable than New York. I was able to sit, no problem. Sean and I could sit in any seat, no problem. So even though the facility is able to support 850 people, you can tell that it's not really designed to host 850 people on any one occasion. The biggest obstacle, I mean, for the most part, it was okay. The biggest obstacle, again, developer conference, sausage fest, between talks, a huge line. There was like 2 restrooms, 850 people. You do the math.
Oof.
John, you mentioned if it was still a single track. Yeah, it was still a single track, and that's still kind of that added to it a little bit because you got 850 people sitting in this theater, and everybody's watching the same talk, and there's constantly people walking in and out, and the doors are like slamming, like every 2 minutes the door is slamming because somebody's walking in and out.
Did they do what they did last year with the sidetrack of like the really short talks?
No, there was no science projects or whatever. Yeah, it was just a single talk. So
see, I thought that was a good idea of them to do last year, just having something different, because not everybody wants everything that you're showing on the main stage.
Right,
it's got to be variety.
It's interesting you should bring up variety. So I wasn't going to slam it too much because I've already spoke my piece.
Still not going to. Anyone listening, he's not slamming it. This was fantastic conference. Go ahead.
Let's finish. With the exception of the bathrooms, like moving, I mean, anytime you're trying to move 850 people around, it's going to be challenging. But I think the facility handled it pretty well. Like when it came time to eat, the food was not good, but there was places for everybody to sit. Like I didn't see anybody walking around trying to find a place to sit. And again, the food not being good, and I'm kind of I've turned into a little bit of a food snob. I don't like just cheap food or whatever, as you can tell.
Just hot dogs at a baseball stadium.
Okay,
those are
classics. This is not a judging podcast.
Full of judgment.
But and again, the food situation, any other conference, we would have gone somewhere else, like we did in New York. We just went somewhere else, and that just wasn't an option. Wasn't really an option. There was a food court in the museum, but that was that looked like I passed it once. That looked like absolute chaos. So I'm like, I'm not going there. So yeah. So I think I really feel like Laravel has an identity issue, or I think they need to be clear about what their identity is. So when the conference wrapped up, like I said, ran into a lot of people. A lot of people listen to the show. I am well known through the Laravel community as being a supporter but a harsh critic of the things that go on in the community, which I do have a criticism for. I'll get to. How long do you guys want this show to run for? I'll try to be quick. I wasn't going to bring this up. I wasn't surprised when it happened. And I'm like, all right, if somebody asks me, I'll give my opinion, but I'm not going to just blast them for it. But sure enough, some of the first people who came up to me, and it was more than one, after the final talk was all said and done and the conference was over, came up to me and says, hey, listen to your show. No talk about community. I'm like, yeah. They said, now I'll prefix this with, on the second day, I was late because I had, biggest problem with the conference, no Wi-Fi. No Wi-Fi
Really?
in the actual theater. Yeah. I think that was that was an oversight. Yeah. Not only was there Wi-Fi, but no Wi-Fi. There was Wi-Fi when you got out into the lounge, but in the theater, no Wi-Fi. And my cellular didn't work, which was just absolutely killing me. Because, again, I hadn't planned on being there. So I was trying to work while I was at this thing. But, so I missed 2 or 3 talks on the second day because I was catching up with some work stuff. So I didn't see all the talks. I didn't see everything everybody said. But the people who spoke to me said nobody said anything. They only heard community mentioned a couple times. One by the MC, who, side note, was not Taylor.
Really?
He mentioned something about how strong the Laravel community was, but didn't go into details. And then, of course, and the one everybody kind of had a consensus on was TJ Miller really seemed to have a heart-pouring emotion of, hey, I appreciate the Laravel community. I think, highly of them. And he spoke a lot about the Laravel community. And I did see his talk, and I did see that. No State of the Union on Laravel. So Taylor, you actually saw very little of Taylor and heard even less. Taylor gave his talk announcing Nova. Didn't really talk much about anything else Laravel, just kind of talked a little bit about the next feature release of Laravel, said it was going to be very minor, touched on a few, minor features. Nothing about the state of Laravel, any of the past versions. No thank you to any of the contributors of Laravel or anybody who contributes to any of the packages for Laravel or anybody can. None of that. Just like you didn't do last year. There was none of that again. No thank you for anybody who, user group organizers, podcast people, Laravel news. No acknowledgement of any of that at all. Now this is where I start to come to a conclusion. All right. So, well, let me.
The following statements are
you-
not approved by the PHP Ugly podcast and do not represent the beliefs and feelings of all members involved.
All right. So before I say that, I got hit with a curveball as well. Typically, you go to these conferences, and when it's all said and done, you ask somebody, hey, how'd you like the conference? Oh, I thought it was great. Had a good time. Met this person, met that person. I say that. You always find the positive things out of the conference, and you go with that.
You've taken a large amount of your time away, and you're not going to write it off as a bad experience. I mean,
right. I asked an individual this, and I actually heard this reply a couple times. The first time I heard it, it really caught me off guard, and I thought he was messing with me. And then when he stated his reasoning, it made complete sense. The first person I asked, they had some extra expenses, right? They came from Europe, so they had extra travel time, extra travel cost, blah blah blah. So keep that in mind. Not that it changes this at all, but you gotta understand there was extra funding there, right? Extra effort. I asked him, like, hey, what'd you think of the conference? He said, it was bullshit. I hated it. This is bullshit. And I'm like, okay, you're funny. You're a funny guy. I'm like, why was it bullshit? He's, are you kidding me? He's like, I just paid all this money to come to a conference, and what do I get? A fucking infomercial for a product I don't fucking need? And I sat there and I looked at him for a second. I'm like, you're talking about Nova? He's like, yeah. And I thought about it, I'm like, he has a valid point. So a couple things were brought up. And this all adds into this person's rant. And this was not my rant. And I actually hadn't even had the insight on this until he brought it to my attention. But so Laravel has always been a conference where like a certain level of sponsors got to come on stage and give their little pitch for their company or whatever. And that's not terribly uncommon. But from his vision, from his perspective, he came all the way to this conference and he was, there was all this talk of this new product and, he was expecting all this information about the Laravel platform itself. Excuse me. And he actually got very little of that. And the only Laravel piece from the Laravel creator was his pitch for a new product that he built. That
right.
Again,
going back to the fact that there's no State of the Union, there's no here's where we're going, here's where we're at.
No direction, no future direction, no.
I was going to correct you. I was going to correct you on saying product, but you're right. I forgot that Nova is a new for-sale product.
Yeah.
Right. And so first thing, I'm going to state this, and I'm just going to put it out there. This is probably my biggest gripe. I know I was probably guilty of it before. I probably did it with Horizon. I probably do it with other shit. But if you're one of those fanboys out there hyping up a product that you have absolutely no idea what it is, what it's used for, or what it's going to be, if you're on Twitter trying to get some friction going on this product because you're a fanboy of the goddamn platform, especially if you're somebody high ranking in this community and you fucking do that, I've lost some respect for you, and your opinion means a whole lot less to me because it's kind of a dick move to do that. Have some information, or if information is being kind of leaked out slowly but surely, where there's some context can be put around what the product is or what the hyped up thing is, that's one thing. But if you have no idea what it is and you're just spewing the information just because you want to be in on the conversation, stop doing that shit. Okay? Because this pisses people off. And it pissed the guy off who came over from Europe thinking that, this might be something that he needed to be a part of. So I'm just going to put that out there. Don't do that anymore. I mean, the fanboyism with Laravel was strong at this conference. There were people there just crazy about anything Taylor had to say without any sort of criticism.
There's a conference around a framework. I mean, that still shocks the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Well, I don't.
People are so tied into a single framework.
So this brings me to the identity crisis that I think Laravel's facing, and a lot of this gets cleared up if they would just decide what side of the fence they're falling on and make it clear to everybody. Is LaraCon a community conference for Laravel developers, or is LaraCon a vendor conference for the Laravel platform? If it's a vendor conference, fine. Make that clear to everybody. This is not a community conference. This is not a kumbaya, hold hands around the campfire and talk about what a great thing Laravel is. This is a vendor conference. We're going to try to sell you things, and that's what it is. I mean, full disclaimer, I'm still a business owner. We build products based on Laravel. If LaraCon is a vendor conference, I will still probably go to it. I reached out to Taylor as soon as LaraCon wrapped up. I said, let me in on Nova. will pay the $200 because I'm already paying the developers to develop a admin dashboard. That's something that applies to us. That's something we need. But I'm a business owner. I have clients. That's fine. It's fine if Laracon is a vendor conference to me. But to Brian, who took a day off work and paid his own money to go to Laracon, he might have a problem going to a vendor conference. He might want to go to a community conference. He may think, you know what, let me hold on to this money and go to a community-focused conference. Like, I don't know, Wave PHP in San Diego. What? No.
Go in a direction I didn't want to go.
But seriously, I think Laracon needs to decide or needs to announce. I feel like it's already decided that it's a vendor conference, and it's perfectly fine to be a vendor conference. It just needs to be clear. The other thing that was brought to my attention.
Well, no, I want to agree with you there. Looking at the speaker list, you've got the creator of Vue.js, partner at Titan, developer at Vehicle, senior developer at Titan, founder of Basecamp, and creator of Laravel Shift, and Freek Vanderherten, a developer at Spady. I mean, it seems like these are Laravel-focused shops, or I mean, it seems like these are a lot of vendors. Titan specifically.
You're actually touching on the other pain point that was brought to my attention. I was about to go on how the inner circle of Laravel has really started to solidify. Again, if you look at the vendor, or if you look at the speaker list, Adam Wathan, Wes Boss, Evan Yu, Frick, those are all seasoned Laracon speakers. Look at how many Titan developers. Somebody said there were 5 Titan speakers.
There's 3 Titan speakers.
There are 3.
Yeah.
Somebody told me 5. Well, the MC was a Titan speaker. You had Matt, you had Caleb, you had Samantha,
and then Vehicle, which has been a sponsor since I first went there.
So that's a lot of, and I mean, Titan was plastered everywhere at Laracon. But that's a lot of speakers.
Good for them. I mean, good for them to get the sponsor and the money and that stuff. But that's
But there's not a lot of variety. Let's just say that. And like I said, I mean, you know, it's a vendor conference. You're gonna have vendors talking. You know, more power to you. But please make it clear to the people going that that's what it is. Set expectations correctly. You know.
Now, I think one thing is that Taylor sees Laravel as this artisan framework for individuals to launch one-off SaaS type projects. And so his sort of focus on his presenters and his vendors is people who need a one-off product for a server or something like that. And I don't know that it is that anymore. You know, we always talk about the enterprise readiness and all that shit, but it seems like he keeps pulling, or things keep pulling Laravel in 2 different directions. Is it an artisan framework, or is it an enterprise framework? Is the conference community, or is it vendor or education? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, and I will say Samantha from Titan, fantastic speaker. I mean, goody, out there, intelligent speaker. I would watch her talk again. TJ Miller absolutely killed it. He did
always
well.
Good.
JMac, Jason McCreary of Laravel Shift fame, had an awesome talk. He did more of talking about the state of Laravel than Taylor did. He did a lot of the statistics that he sees from Shift around Laravel. And he was very self-conscious.
His talk is the one I want to see.
Yeah, he was very self-conscious about, and if you don't know JMac, and TJ Miller's kind of the same way. the guy is the most humble, coolest person you could know. I mean, the guy is up on stage talking to 850 people, gets off stage and plops down in the plops down actually next to me, and we're talking about something completely different. I mean, such an absolute cool guy, and he was so concerned that people were going to view his talk as a pitch for Laravel Shift. And so he only mentioned Shift a couple times at the very beginning to kind of let people understand the context of where he was getting his information from, that he wasn't just grabbing these out of the air or anything.
That he knows the framework better than Taylor.
Yeah. So, and I think he gets it. I think in JMac's mind, it's, he's trying to do the community conference and say, hey, this is why this is great. This is what it's being used for. And, he wasn't trying to hard sell people on Laravel Shift. And I mean, nobody was trying to hard sell anybody on anything as far as the speakers go. We should be clear about that. There was no hard selling of anything. But JMac, I had conversations with, and he was very aware of it. He was being very cautious to not do that.
You did mention a couple of names there that I know happen to be coming out to San Diego soon.
So I ran into 6. I believe I counted 6 Wave PHP presenters at Laracon, including
Really? Wow.
JMac and TJ Miller, who were presenting at Laracon. Amanda Folston was there. Marcus was there. Daniel was there. And
Daniel was there from Longhorn?
From Longhorn, yep.
Wow. With a young baby, and he was out there.
Yeah.
That's amazing that he's able to get away for that.
I feel like I said 6. I feel like I'm missing somebody. I said Amanda. I have to look at the Wave PHP site. I feel like I'm missing somebody. But yeah, those 5 for sure were there. And
so you're not gonna like this, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
But while you were talking, I don't know why, but I had the idea. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna make a discount code for people listening to our podcast right now.
Oh my
You're
God! You can't stop giving away money. You just can't stop.
You go to Wave PHP right now.
Go ahead, John.
Discount code PHP Ugly to get $75 off your ticket price.
To add 18% to your handling fee.
Oh my God!
You're a listener. Yeah. You owe us.
Our Wave PHP early bird special runs out tomorrow at noon, so less than 12 hours. All
right, so don't let anybody. All right, don't let anybody know, especially people listening to the show, that this discount code, because we know this is coming out after the early bird ends, we're bringing the price back down to early bird.
Challenge accepted.
So
Eric, did this make you feel better going into Wave PHP, or did it make you feel even more nervous?
We're not going to be anywhere near 850 people.
No, but I mean,
better how?
This is your second conference since you started putting together Wave PHP. You went to Longhorn, and now you've been to Laracon, and seeing the situation with the bathroom line, with the food, with the walk to the venue. How do you feel about
no Wi-Fi?
No Wi-Fi.
No, yeah, I feel good. I mean, I have concerns. So there were things that were out of the realm of control of Taylor. I think the Wi-Fi thing was probably missed, or I don't know what. But he didn't have control. There was no Wi-Fi. If he didn't catch it when he established the place, then he didn't catch it. That was his fault. But there was nothing he could do about that.
No, that is. If he missed it, that's his fault. I mean, he's putting on a tech conference. He knows people are there. They need Wi-Fi. So,
yeah, a tech conference for 100 people.
I would prefer him to say, "Hey, I would have preferred him to say, hey, in our contract, there was supposed to be Wi-Fi here, and it's just not working." or something. Don't give the pass because it's a tech conference. He's been to plenty of conferences. He knows that Wi-Fi is required.
And I know you guys well enough that if you guys didn't have Wi-Fi on day one, you would have a hotspot and a Verizon card on day 2.
Hey, don't raise the expectations. If there's no Wi-Fi, I don't know what we're gonna do.
So I am nervous about that. Like after seeing this, the idea of, hey, there could be things that go wrong with the hotel. Like we have the scenario of where they're going to establish these floating walls. They're going to close it off to create the 2 tracks. So I'm concerned about how smoothly that goes, how well that actually protects noise from creeping over and people.
Well, we've asked the questions. I mean, we've done our homework as far as asking the proper questions. Hopefully, we got the answers, or we got the answers we think will help the conference. Obviously,
right. I'm worried about execution. I mean, they'll say whatever, but execution is.
I guess we could have had him close the walls while we were there and started yelling at each other.
Yeah.
So just close the walls.
I'm concerned about things like that, but it is what it is. You'll have to. It's going to be a small enough conference where I think everybody we can handle it. And that's another thing. Anybody who wants to talk shit to me about criticizing Laracon, I'm putting my money where my mouth is. Okay, I mean we're putting on a conference. I understand the pains and stress and anxiety of putting on a conference. So, fuck you. I can criticize the conference as much as I want.
Hey, I just found the opener for the podcast this week.
It was said during the show. It's fair game.
Okay, so John, how was your week?
Oh my god! I have a list of things that have happened over the past 3 weeks, but we've spent so much time on Laracon.
Right.
I might have to just put it off.
We have to spin away. We've covered Laracon. We've got it down. We still have to talk about Laravel Nova.
I'm pretty sure I've upset the other half of the Laravel community that still kind of like me. So let's move on.
People are dropping like flies out of the chat room.
First and foremost, I put out a couple of tweets in the past few weeks, and people have kind of jumped on me about it. And I want to make it very clear. I understand best practices. Xdebug 255 and under have a vulnerability. Okay? I know that. Yes, I had servers accessible from the internet that were hit. You're not supposed to. So I understand.
Make sure you say production servers. Don't forget the production word. That's important.
There were 2 production servers that were vulnerable that were not hit. There are dev servers that the way this client does their business, that their dev servers are accessible from the internet because they use SSH to get onto the server. They use Vim to edit code. That's just the way they've been working for 15 years. We are slowly changing the culture and pushing them towards local development. And they're getting there, but not everyone's there yet. So some of those servers had Xdebug accessible, and they were attacked. All of them attacked the exact same way. And luckily, the only thing that was being installed was a Bitcoin miner. So easy to spot, easy to fix. My first fix was upgrade Xdebug, but there was conflicting information on the internet, whether it was 255 and below or below 255. So that's frustrating as hell when you can't get that clear picture of, if I upgrade and the only thing I could upgrade to at that point was 255, am I safe at this point? So I upgraded 255, go back a day later, the machine's hit again, it's still mining Bitcoin. Okay, just remove Xdebug, which turned out to be fine because the people that use those machines don't use Xdebug. Back in the day, a few years ago, I think the reason it was installed was you got the orange box with the error messages versus just text. So you got a little bit of a nicer output
Right.
when there was
You could
error
flag it to
messages.
show extended error messages and stuff.
Right. So I think that's why this ended up on those machines, again, going back years ago. So I just put it out to the community. Hey, make sure you're not running Xdebug because one, it's easy to install, and just double check, make sure you're you're protected. I had a few people say you shouldn't be running that in production, and it shouldn't be accessible from the internet. It's like, I know, I'm sorry. I understand these things.
I have an interesting card here that says you posted something about posting production credentials on social media.
Oh, where did I put that? I didn't know I made that a
What?
Who
public
put
thing.
that? Somebody put that card up there.
On a
Oh God! Oh, that was me 2 minutes ago. Shoot, how
on
did
a
that happen?
very completely separate topic.
What?
There was a SQL injection vulnerability found, and it was caught super quickly. We went through all the logs. Nothing was accessed that shouldn't be accessed. There's nothing that we were worried about. We decide that we fixed the vulnerability super quick, no big deal. That night we decide, actually not that night, I put out a whole article about how I think MySQL and Postgres could protect developers from SQL injection. And of course, I got pushback from people.
I read that article.
Yeah, I got pushback from people in that industry.
That was
And
terrible.
I still think they are wrong. I still think there are things they could do to help protect developers from SQL injection. And everyone comes back to, we need to be a better developer. But why do we have PDO? Because it helps developers. There were ways to interact. There were ways to fix this before PDO, but PDO was developed to help prevent SQL injection, right?
Right. It's like if we can put the tools in place to help, then why wouldn't we do it? As long as it's not hampering it, then why wouldn't we do it?
So my article goes into the things I've seen from SQL injection is there's automatic code you can run against machines to see if there is some sort of vulnerability. And then you start attacking that. And then one of the first things you do is you look for the databases, and then you list the tables in there. Well, to the best of my knowledge, there aren't specific permissions, especially in MySQL, that say you're not allowed to list databases or you're not allowed to list tables. So
there are.
I haven't found them yet.
They're very, very particular.
Even if there are, the people that set up this database, again, going back 15 years ago, gave the user that has access to it all the permissions except for grant. So they basically opened it up. So I sent an email like, hey, I think we need to set up a new user or change the permissions of the current user to limit to these 5 or 6 permissions. We get on a call that night to actually implement it. And to make sure it worked, I increased the verbosity of a tool that they use for their data access layer. I ended up showing the entire SQL strings, username, password, and everything to anybody that was on the site for about 2-3 seconds. I could not believe I did that. I was so embarrassed about it to begin with, and I was like, oh my gosh.
So embarrassed that he mentioned it to me, somebody he knows can never let shit go.
No, it's fine. It's actually on my list to talk about. It was hilarious in hindsight. It was like, I cannot believe in trying to make things more secure, I showed everyone a username and a password to the database. Granted, you need to have firewall access. You need to be on the VPN to access it.
I don't need to leak more information.
But I leaked that information, and luckily we saw that it happened. And while we were fixing permissions, we changed passwords and just hardened everything up around that. It just made it what should have been like a 10 or 15 minute exercise take about an hour and a half, 2 hours to make sure we had everything updated. And it was just, I couldn't believe I did that. SQL injection sucks.
I've committed AWS credentials to open source GitHub repos before, so that's fine. I've done worse.
I have to tell you, when I was working on Buscoin, I got to the point where I was generating like the pre-generation of a quarter of the tokens, and that was the most terrifying process I've ever been through. Where it was like, I'm setting up something that has the potential value of an enormous amount of money, and so just that whole process was nerve-wracking.
Mm-hmm.
I instituted like 5 new personal password policies just based off of that.
It's amazing.
And
We've
that's
had
dead.
so many. So the client I'm talking about has had so many weird ops issues in the past 2 weeks, outside of just me disclosing username and passwords to the database.
Can't imagine why they're having ops issues.
They use VMware on hardware in Vegas, and the owner decided he was going to vMotion one of our cron server, our cron / workers, so it handles all of the jobs. He was going to vMotion it to another host and missed something, and so as he started it, it basically crashed that entire server, and he was moving it to the physical server that had the database server on it. So basically brought that to a halt as well, which is just mind-boggling, but it happened. It's basically immediately consumed all the memory of the physical hardware and just brought it to its knees.
Wow. So the vMotion did? Or
Yeah, so the whole thing with VMware, they happen to have 3 different servers, and within there you can move VMs from one to another pretty easily. You can say, hey, I now want to run this one on another physical server.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what he was trying to do at the time, but he thought, well, I want to move the VM that's running all of the jobs, just move it over to this other physical server for, I don't know if it's temporary or trying to relieve the resources on another physical server, but missed the fact that the one running the jobs has so much memory on it that as soon as he vMotioned it, it killed the entire server. Just luckily it was about an hour. We got everything back up and running, but it's just amazing how much goes into keeping hardware up and running.
Yeah, it's a full-time job. I mean, we've talked about it in the past. It's just, I am so uncomfortable not having a dedicated full-time ops person, just because there's just so much that goes into it. That
we don't even have physical hardware to deal with.
I know, but there's so much stuff that you let slide when you don't have that full-time ops person.
I don't think I told you about the problem this week.
Probably not. We haven't talked much.
They have a full rack with 2 different power supplies going into the rack. Mm-hmm. Every piece of equipment in there has redundant power supplies. So if power goes out on one side, everything stays up.
Right.
And it's still not clear if it was the data center's fault or a piece of hardware like the PDU in the rack. Mm-hmm. But something happened where an entire side went out, had no power, and every single piece of equipment stayed up and running, except for one, and it goes back to that same physical piece of hardware running some of the virtual machines, and it happened to be the one running their database server. So power cuts out, database server goes offline. They can't get the physical hardware back online till you make a phone call and get somebody to run to the rack. And then they're looking and they're like trying to figure out where the wires are going to make sure everything's plugged in correctly.
Yeah.
How
do they get power back to the rack though if they weren't sure where the power shortage was coming from?
Well, all they ended up doing was unplugging that hardware from one side and put it in the other, even though they're supposed to have one in each side. It's supposed to be, power A and B.
Right.
Again, we're not there with our eyes, so we don't know if they're lying to us or not, but supposedly it was that way. they took out of the bad side, put it over in the good side, and the machine powered back up. So that comes back up. The main database comes back online, but now there's an issue with the replicas because now they're out of sync. So it was a nice like 2 to 2.5 hours of downtime in the middle of the day when you're at your busiest, and it's like, oh my god, it's so stressful. Luckily we were able to get through that, and it's just no fun. It's been a stressful few weeks, I gotta tell you.
It has. It hasn't been the best.
On a lighter note, you want to laugh at me?
I mean, I
Laughing
just
at you
did.
this whole show. Why not?
So we use a package called Finks for doing database migrations.
Thanks. Yes.
I know that one.
Yeah, and one of the developers on this team write to me and they're like, hey, did you know that if you do an insert of data in a migration and you try doing it during a dry run, it still inserts data into the database? I'm like, that makes no sense.
That's not good.
That makes absolutely no sense. I look at the code, sure shit, there's no check for a dry run, so it's going to insert the data. I have already had a PR accepted by the Finks team that we needed internally. So I'm like, I'm going to open up a PR real quick. So I fixed the code. I took probably 30 minutes or so to write unit tests to make sure the code worked the way it was supposed to work. Open up the PR, only to realize, oh shit, we're on an outdated version. a newer version of the Finks software already had the check for dry run in there. So I mean, my PR was open for like a minute, or actually probably more like a 5 to 10 minutes. I realized that. I'm like, I'm just gonna quietly close this, no comment. Ignore my PR, please.
To see here, nothing to see. I know. I think Finks was what they used to use in the Cake PHP for their migration, but I'm not sure if it was part of the Cake.
It is. It's still from Cake PHP.
Is it part of the Cake project though?
Yep.
Okay.
So the composer
that's
still
right.
says Rob Morgan, but I think that's because that's his composer account. Mm-hmm. But in GitHub, it's still part of the Cake PHP GitHub ecosystem.
Gotcha.
That threw me for a loop at first. I'm like, wait, I keep going here and it's taking me to Cake PHP, but my composer says Rob Morgan, and it's like, oh, composer is to composer, or packagist, I'm sorry. And that's linking to Cake PHP on GitHub.
I see.
Yeah. So. Very confusing. Most people make those match, and theirs does not.
Yeah. Thomas, what about you? We've been rambling now for a while. Holy crap, man. This is going to be a long show.
You went on and on about Laracon. I started writing to you in Slack like, all right, time to wrap this Laracon conversation.
You guys were loving it. You guys are like, no. Let him dig himself a little deeper. Yeah. No, I can still see his head. Let him dig himself a little deeper. Screw this guy.
I told you guys I had to replace my.
We need at PHP. Hang on, we need at PHP Drama to start tweeting like stirring stuff up.
Does that still exist? Are we going to get burned again?
All right, Thomas, your turn. Sorry,
I was told. Hold on, I was called a podcast whore by a listener. I'm not going to name names, Ken. I told you I wouldn't call you out on this, but at Laracon I was called a podcast whore. I told him it didn't hurt my feelings, but it hurt a little bit.
Yeah, you are though.
Speaking of that, we need to record the other podcast this week.
Do we have a magazine?
Yeah, it's got to be out after the first. Anyway, go ahead, Thomas. Your turn.
I told you guys I need to buy a new router.
Why don't you talk about something, Thomas? You have anything to contribute, Thomas?
I bought a new router, and now I have to ship it back to Amazon without the box and hope that they take the return.
What? You're just gonna throw it in a plastic bag and drop it off somewhere?
No, without the original box. The original,
just tell me you ordered the hassle-free packaging.
My issue is that I ordered a router because I looked on the page for gigabit Ethernet. I saw gigabit Ethernet. It was what I wanted. It was dual band. It was everything. I ordered it. I'm running some tests yesterday or a couple days ago, and I'm not getting gigabit Ethernet. I'm actually connected straight to the router. I'm getting 100 megabit.
So that's a little slower.
A little slower. Look into it further, and the router that I have doesn't support gigabit Ethernet. So I start wondering, why do I think it supports gigabit Ethernet?
Yeah.
It's because I went back to the original page I bought the product from, and in there, from the manufacturer description, they list a upgrade to this router to receive these features, and then it lists off 2 pages of features that are in a different router.
But you got to read that first line. If you miss that, you're
Yeah.
screwed.
Exactly. That was the issue, is that if you miss the first line, which says upgrade to this to receive, then you are looking at specs for a completely different product.
That's hilarious.
So,
And that's the hard part from Amazon's perspective is they allow anybody to list product and put any description they want.
yeah, and now this was listed by the manufacturer too. This was listed by not Linksys. I don't care. It was the I don't know.
Netgear?
It might have been Linksys. I don't. Whoever it was, fucking shame on them. It was what a horrible move for them.
But it probably wasn't intentional. They're probably like,
No, they thought that
They're
marketing
just
space
scared.
was marketing space for upsell, and it's not.
yeah,
It was product specifications, not upsell.
yeah.
And it was a totally terrible move. Now I have to return the router and buy a different one. But who makes a dual band Wi-Fi router that runs 100 megabit on its hub? That's like a 5-cent difference in hardware. So now I have to deal with the
They're just
hassle of it.
they're trying to dump their old stuff. They probably had it sitting around for years.
What a pain in the ass. So
And you want to
that
get
drove me crazy.
It's vintage now. You should keep it.
But now we have to get back into Laravel.
What? I thought we
'Cause
just don't talk about Laravel anymore. You talked about it too much. I'm sorry. go ahead.
Laravel, what we didn't talk about was the new Laravel product, Laravel Nova.
Ah, yeah.
This was the big hype thing. I got caught up in the hype. I wanted to know what this thing was. I was super interested.
And you were actually, I mean, I think I was pretty clear when this started going on in my company's Slack channel. I made it very clear I didn't want any conversation about this until somebody knew what it was. That yeah, I was paying for people's time, and I wasn't paying for people to speculate on a product that nobody had any idea on. So,
Well,
kinda-
we were also talking about Macs at that point and the many failings of Macintosh in the last 2 weeks.
my point being is, my frustration with the Nova hype is not a post-conference thing. It was building up before the conference started. I shut down that hype in our company's internal Slack because there was no purpose to it.
Right. Nobody knew what it really was. It was
You
Taylor's
murdered
not working
all
this thing.
casual. You murdered all casual conversation in the company official chat. You were so upset about some of the things that had been said about Mac throttling CPUs.
No, I wasn't upset about anything. I wasn't.
I
understanding
have it here.
One of the best talks at Laracon was from Jason Fried, who was one of the guys at Basecamp. And according to him, he does not do this asynchronous communication like Slack and stuff. Everything has to be, or if he doesn't do synchronous, everything has to be like through emails and post on message boards. He doesn't do this whole real time communication. He's he definitely gave me a lot to think about with that. You're talking about there's a lot of talk around the distraction free kind of workplace, and I can see because I know Yeah, we have some very distracting conversations that fire up occasionally in the company Slack.
I've had that whole conversation with you. I shared a book with you about this, and you disagreed with it.
Moving
I
on
did,
to
yeah.
About Me.
Let's do this. I think Thomas had some Laravel talk he wanted to have. Yes. Nova. What about Nova?
Nova was a huge hype machine, and it immediately, like the day of the announcement, turned into Twitter drama.
Oh, did it? I didn't
Really?
see Twitter drama.
Yes.
I mean, I saw a lot of people went from being extremely hyped to I don't care about it. But again, companies, people who do this, development firms, I was happy to see it. I was already paying a developer to build it almost to the specs that he talked about. So as a vendor conference, I saw that. I'm like, yeah, I'll pay for that. I need that.
Well, Taylor came out and said, in reference to no specific tweets, I've never used or installed any other admin panel in my life, period, in any language, period.
Oh, I did see those tweets. Yeah.
I saw that, and after reading some other tweets, I don't know if he meant like any generic admin panel or if there's a product called admin panels that he was referencing. Like somebody said he ripped them off. I never got to the bottom of it.
It is a lengthy Twitter thread.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you guys some insight. I don't know if this is related to that. First thing, we have a good friend here in San Diego who is a big contributor to Laravel packages and building Laravel apps. He has a product out there called Voyager. It's an admin panel. A lot of people initially came who knew that I knew this person, who knew I was in San Diego. A lot of people came to me and say, "Hey, is this going to kill Voyager?" And I told them, quite honestly, I don't think it is. I think if anything, it'll give Voyager a bump because people are going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, maybe I do need an admin panel, but I don't want to pay for it. What free admin panels are there out there for Laravel?" And Voyager is definitely on the top of that list. So, for people who put their sweat and tears into creating open source packages that are admin panels, I don't think it's in vain. I think that their products are still not only get used but get used more. I think Voyager is a perfect example. I think our buddy Tony is going to see a huge bump to his Voyager package usage because, if nothing else, Nova piqued people's interest in why they might want an admin panel in their application. But what was shared with me at Laracon that I had no idea of, and I'll try to put it in the show notes because I think I have it in Slack still. Somebody shared with me a commit or a issue conversation going back and forth between Taylor and a project called, I think it's called Laravel Nova or something like that, where it had the name Nova in it. And it was somebody who had taken the Laravel 4, the last version of Laravel 4.2, and forked it and was supporting a framework based on that. And it was called Nova, something Nova. And Taylor had dropped in to the issue log and said, "Hey, you think you'd give me some credit seeing how this is all my code?" Apparently the person hadn't properly credited Taylor for the code that he'd taken from Laravel. And
NovaFramework.com.
Nova Framework, perfect. It created this big back and forth of, hey, Laravel's an MIT license, he doesn't have to credit you. And it's like, okay, but it's good, it's good open source practice to do it. It's like, okay, but don't shit on him because you chose the license. And I thought it was interesting that now Taylor releases a product for Laravel called Nova. So
there does seem like some spite here because Nova Framework, if you looked up Laravel Nova before the announcement, you got Nova Framework, which is an MVC PHP framework extending Laravel support from the 4.2 range. So, I mean,
Right.
it seems shifty.
Yeah, I'm trying to find the link that somebody sent me to the issue log. I'm pretty sure it might have been sent. It might have been sent in Telegram too. I'm not. But if you look through the issue log, there's an issue open from Taylor around that concern of, hey, give me some credit where credit's due.
Yeah, I think Taylor just can't keep himself out of messes like this.
Well, I mean, yeah, but to his credit, if it's Laravel 4 code, then give him credit. I mean, if it's, you know what I mean? Like if
They
it's
say
Laravel.
They say Laravel 4.2. They reference it specifically.
I
I
think
don't
Taylor
know.
wants his name out there.
Yeah, I think it was more around his name being there.
I'll pour him a beer and a slow clap. I keep running into, we're all Laravel developers, and that's why this keeps coming up, is because we care about the Laravel ecosystem and community.
Don't lump me into this group.
We
Don't-
try not
don't
to.
act like
You
you
excluded
don't
yourself
care.
last episode. There's a lot of times where I just sort of say, like, where do you get off? And one of the big things on the tweet about I've never used an admin control panel in my life, was, come on, get off your high horse. He openly referenced documentation for Django and other CMS frameworks. It is a CRUD interface for dealing with models. It's not, I mean, for all the hype that he gave it and other people gave it, it's not that impressive, and it's really reinventing the wheel when you look at other frameworks like Cake and stuff like that, Cake and Django and things like that. I'm not incredibly hyped about it, and I'm kind of depressed that time was taken away from Laravel development to be put into this. I run.
It's funny you mentioned Cake. I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off, but yeah, it's funny you mentioned Cake.
I'll keep
I
going.
wonder how the Laravel developers would feel if they saw the CRUD capabilities that come baked in Cake. See what I did there? I mean, that was always one of the strong points of how fast you can basically build an admin panel with Cake PHP, because it has all this CRUD functionality that just kind of comes out of the box. It's funny you should mention that. So go ahead. I interrupted you. Obviously, you've made that clear. Go ahead.
That's okay. I'll edit you out. So, I feel like this is reinventing the wheel, and that's a step backwards for Laravel.
Mhm.
I don't know, man.
I don't know. I don't think he's reinventing the wheel. I think it's Taylor doing what Taylor does. He's he's solving a problem that's been
Okay.
solved, but he's solving it his way. What?
You just posted the thread for the Nova framework. Jesus Christ.
What?
You
Oh,
posted
the
posted the ticket, the issue for the Nova framework. Credit me, since this framework basically just steals all the code and style I spent so much time building. You need to at least credit me as a co-author and creator of the framework. Thanks. And then somebody responds, a contributor responds, "You're right, you deserve credit. Not all of your code is reused, no disrespect intended," and then closes the ticket. The next comment is, "I still don't have credit."
Well, he gave it 4 days. He waited 4 days.
I
like to comment after that. In respect for Laravel's MIT licensing, as we reuse some parts of the software,
Taylor just drives me fucking crazy. He drives me nuts. He's the open source developer I don't ever want to be.
You're not even close to being Taylor.
I know.
I'm well aware. But with the direction that Laracon is going, the hype behind Laravel Nova, and then Horizon, and then the not quote unquote not abandonware thing about Horizon, where we got yelled at about that.
We got pushback on that. Yeah. I shared that with you.
Yeah, I still don't believe I'm wrong. My issue is that it seems like Taylor is much better at marketing a framework than maintaining an open source development community. And we had this conversation last week about the developer of Perl, who considered himself a benevolent dictator for life.
Was it Perl or Python? I thought it was
Python. Sorry, you're right, Python. The benevolent dictator for life. And it's like, benevolent dictator for life can mean two things. And in the case of Python, it meant one thing, which was focused on community, let community develop and then shape the direction that the project goes, versus what I look at Taylor doing, which is benevolent dictator for life. I'm going to profit off of this for life. Yeah. And I'm getting kind of sick of the fact that Laravel is a pet project and it's just a money machine at this point, because that's the perspective that the owner, the dictator, has.
Well,
I don't know.
Going back to Eric's point of you get the fanboys that just come to his defense too. When you put out something with a license that says you're allowed to copy it, don't get pissed off when people copy it.
Right.
And I'm generally okay with fanboys. I'm okay with fanboys that you're entirely welcome to have that sort of overjoyous perspective on a product that you love. My issue isn't the fanboys. My issue is the way that the BDFL doesn't tell the fanboys to back down when they should back down. The BDFL should still be there to tell the fanboys, chill out. But what I'm seeing instead is the BDFL taking the fanboys and lifting them up and saying, yes, my crew supports me.
Yeah, I don't think that's there. But I don't think you're completely fair on what?
Sorry, I'm reading one of the comments, and it was like, they even said Taylor put the issue in the wrong framework or in the wrong repo, because the repo he commented had none of the Laravel code in it. It should have been in another repo, still within the same organization, but you commented in the wrong place.
But again, Taylor is trying to build a company. He is trying to make money in the open source community. I take exception to the fact that he does depend on open source contributors. People contributing to the framework in the open source world, people contributing to things like his closed source products like Spark that he continues to make money on, but none of that money gets dispersed to anybody submitting any of the patches or anything, which is fine. He's making a living in the open source world. I don't necessarily completely agree with the way he does everything, and I definitely don't like the way he seems to kind of shun the community that helps support him. But to say that he shouldn't be, you almost make it sound like he shouldn't be making money off Laravel, and I don't see why that would be.
No, I'm not saying that. He should make plenty of money off of Laravel. My issue is entirely attitude. And it's an attitude that we, amazingly enough, had to deal with in the era of what, 4.0?
Yeah.
We as a community, we're 3 community guys. And like we haven't brought up the why PHP drama Twitter exists story in 3 years. Right? Mm-hmm. But that
no reason Twitter, to rehash that now, but
not now. Sure. Not now. But that Twitter account exists because of an interaction between our community group discussing Laravel and his response to that conversation.
No.
And that hasn't changed, and that's disappointing.
And if anything, it's that it's gotten a lot more clickier. And that really gets evident when trying to have conversation with anybody, with any of the ranking people in the Laravel community or in the Laravel ecosystem. I almost don't want to even call it a Laravel community anymore. It's kind of the Laravel ecosystem.
It is. And that's I think that's why the conference, I think that's why your conversation about the conference earlier is important, because it wasn't about the Laravel community, it was about the ecosystem. And that's where that divide between the vendor versus the community stuff keeps coming up with us, is that we've been interacting with Taylor directly for longer than Laravel has been a popular platform.
Mm-hmm.
And our experience, our very first experience, was extremely negative. And so we go off of that from a lot of our positions, and it kind of just keeps being weirdly negative. We keep seeing this weird defensive, aggressive, angry, possessive behavior.
I agree with that.
I think a lot of our listeners might not understand that we have a history with Laravel going back further than almost anybody.
Further than a lot. And again, the thing is, we are passionate about it, and I enjoy the framework, and I'm fine, supporting the framework. It's just, I'm gonna call bullshit where I see bullshit. I've always been that way. I'll always be that way. And I think Laravel can be better for community. I think they can embrace community more. I've offered to be part of that, and so I don't know. End of day, we all need to code. So if I'm not coding in Laravel, I'll code in something else. But as long as Laravel's around, I continue to use it because it just works best for me.
I'm really proud that I've managed to turn Doom and Gloom into like not even a segment, just an ennui, just a feeling, where it's like John asks me how I'm doing this week, and things just go emotionally downhill. Now we're all sad.
A good point was brought up in chat. I don't know if they want to mention names, but I do agree with his sentiment, which is basically saying that Laravel is going to hit a threshold until it can kind of overcome this immaturity it has, and understand and work better with. I'm reading a lot into what was posted, but basically,
what chat are you reading? I'm not reading that chat.
What was posted was, for Laravel to really grow beyond itself, the drama's got to mature out, and it's a great point. It's like it's going to hit a threshold. All the fanboyism, all the clickiness, it's going to teeter out, and for it to reach that next level, it has to become more mature. The ecosystem around it, the people running it, the people managing it have to become more mature in how they're doing it. Good. That's a very good point, person in our chat.
Ted Nugent.
Dude, don't call the dude out. He's big in the PHP or the Laravel community. Don't call the dude out.
No.
Hey, Ted, tell us if you want us to edit that out. We'll edit that out.
Yeah. Tell me if you want Eric to edit the podcast this week.
Look, you upset him. He put an upset emoji in there. You need to edit his name out.
Can't tell what that is.
You have to put a beep in there.
I'm upset that we got so sidetracked on everything this week that we didn't even get to cover the fact that Slack now has a breastfeeding emoji. Because not 2 minutes before the podcast started, that was really important to all three of us.
I'm like looking at. I get a little notifications. Yeah, I got a notification saying, "Hey, we've got a new emojis." I'm thinking to myself, There were like 1 billion emojis there. What could possibly be new? And yeah, the breastfeeding emoji was one of them. Yeah. Man.
Are we
Just
okay?
the little things.
Are we winding down? Or are we gonna enter into?
We need to wind down. I mean, I feel like I can keep going, but dude, we've been talking
An
for
hour
so
and a half
long.
in.
Oh.
Do you guys want to leave an open question out there?
No.
Yeah, before you put an open question out there, I want to reiterate, everybody I met last week, absolute, complete pleasure, scared the shit out of me.
He almost said pricks. He almost said pricks. I heard him. He almost said pricks.
Scared the shit out
Every
of me.
single one of you, total pricks.
Dude, we have 10 in Australia that listen to it. I talked to a guy, who was over in Italy and over in England. Different people who listen to us. Like, people listen to our podcast around the world. It's terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying.
You're giving me like the sweats. I don't want.
We
very aware
of that.
We need them not to go to Lyricon. We need them to come to Wave PHP.
Wave PHP. If you really do like us, you'll come to Wave PHP. If you hate us,
really like us,
we'll come to Wave
use
PHP
the Wave
and tell
PHP.
us how much you hate us.
John?
No, if you really dig us, you will buy a ticket using the Wave PHP promotion code so that we know you really dig us.
That's right. PHP
Okay,
ugly.
John.
What?
I need you to sit up in your chair.
No.
Use your diaphragm. I need you to radio announce what that promotion code is.
The promotion code you need to enter is PHP
wow.
ugly.
I was not going for.
That was really good, though. That was good.
I was not going for Hispanic radio.
I could get that. I get that from what you were saying.
Not sure why you pulled out the weird accent for that one.
I am not a good announcer, but
Pretend
the
it's
promotion code you need to enter is PHP ugly.
And how long is that promotion code? Is it open promotion code? Or are there limited numbers? Please tell me they're limited numbers.
Limited to the first person to use it.
the
Eric
first
wants me to limit it to one person.
or one user.
All right, Thomas, open question. I think that's a great way to end the show.
Do you guys know what shadow banning is?
No.
Shadow banning is a technique where a platform decides that it's less invasive to ban a user than it is to just pretend to ban a user. And this is something that's been going around the trolling communities for a long time, where a shadow ban gives you the feeling that you are still contributing, but in fact you are not in any way actually contributing. On Reddit, if you're shadow banned, you'll leave a comment, but the comment doesn't show up for anybody. On Twitter, you will tweet, but no one will see your tweet. That kind of thing.
Okay.
And I've noticed an interesting trend among my more conservative associates is that the conservative people are very, very concerned about shadow banning as a violation of their First Amendment rights, which, to state the obvious, it's not your First Amendment rights. Somebody else's platform is theirs. They can do whatever they want. But their issue is that they're being shadow banned and they don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
And liberal communities are not concerned with this in the slightest bit.
I'm hoping I'm kind of shadow banned from this episode and I just get taken out completely.
Like last episode?
Yeah, just like that.
Yeah. I find it interesting that people who engage in trolling as a means of debate are the ones that are concerned that shadow banning is an actual problem.
So what's your question?
Do you guys think shadow banning is bad, or when you ban somebody, should you just tell them that they're banned?
The problem, I think the reason shadow banning exists is obviously if you know you're banned, most of the platforms you're speaking on are free to join, so you just join under a different account.
Right.
So
that is the goal.
Right. I'm more curious, if you're shadow banned, do you see your comments and your posts? So you think you're still active?
You do. Shadow banning is supposed to be totally invisible. You're not supposed to know that you're shadow banned. And I found it interesting that the only people I've talked to about this, or who were concerned about this as an issue of controlling speech on the internet, were conservatives. Because the rhetoric, they were concerned.
I think that's going to fluctuate with time, though. I think that's because they're in power. I think in a different time frame where liberals are in power, they're going to be concerned about that kind of thing.
But that's the question, though, is that the people doing the banning are the people in power. And shadow bans are being applied to people who are spreading quote unquote fake news or
well,
that's what we hope, right?
Conspiracy theories. I mean, it's the conspiracy theory people that are getting shadow banned.
So wait a minute. I mean,
wait.
What's the question? Though? Is the question, is the practice of shadow banning, should it be allowed or not allowed, or is the question of shadow banning, a certain group or a certain thought an issue? I mean, shadow banning
should shadow banning be allowed?
Yes, why not?
Or is it better?
Regardless of what the conversation's about, what's the alternative? Shutting somebody down, like John said, letting them know they've been shut down, and just having to address them again. I mean, we see this in some of the public Slack channels that we have to monitor, where we ban people, and the moment they know they're banned, they create a new account and they come back in. But yeah, shadow banning is perfectly reasonable approach to handling trolls.
It's an open question. You're not supposed to answer it now.
I gave you the closed answer. You're good. You're good. You don't need to go any further. Hey, John.
Yeah.
John, PHP Unit 7.3 has just been released. So you might want to put this reverse.
Not PHP Unit. Was it PHP Unit or PHP 7.3? PHP 7.3 is just
7.3 beta 1 was just released.
PHP Unit was just PHP Unit 7.3 has just been released.
That's literally, you're wrong.
But PHP 7.3 beta 1 was just released.
Here you go. So I'll expect your apology in 3, 2, 1, Thomas.
Yes. But
that's
so is
the
PHP
7.3 changelog.
7.3 beta 1.
PHP Unit 7.3 has just been released. I'm just reading the freaking tweet, guys. I don't know what more you want to say.
Okay. Anyways.
So no, I want to go back. You said something about conspiracy theories. You know what's going to make me really, really sad? There was a Flat Earth convention recently, and if they had more attendees than Wave PHP, I'm going to be really sad.
Got terrible news
with
for
Flat
you.
Earth recently?
I can't get into that. I can't get into it right now. I'll explain it next episode.
Why is this a thing all of a sudden?
It just is.
I'll explain it next episode.
Because you get big names like Shaq that say they believe.
Not Shaq. Specifically not Shaq.
Well,
there was some NBA player.
Yes, there was. It was a huge success.
There's a few of them.
Oh my God! This has been episode 115 of PHP Ugly. I'm Tom Rideout.
Wait, Tom is winding us down?
I have to pee so bad.
We've hit a threshold when Thomas is wrapping up. I'm Eric Van Johnson.
I'm John Congdon. Keep it ugly.
Keep it ugly.
Holy, what universe are we living in where Thomas is wrapping it up?
All right, I'm stopping recording.
Pee. Hold on.
Take us offline.
Hey,
bye, Ted. Bye, Clayton.
Thanks.
Thank you.